we're always prioritizing fat drop, right? And we go
Yeah,
to any length
correct.
to lose fat. I'm not saying that's bad, it's great, but most people don't understand that the simultaneous process of losing fat, also you lose muscle. But there are ways where you can preserve muscle and lose fat,
Exactly.
which is for
Yes.
another day,
Yes.
another topic, another subject. But I love what you said in the end about how prioritize muscle for good health,
Yeah. And
right?
it's in fact easy to drop fat, by the way. It is hard to build muscle, especially for people who've been training for a while.
So
For
true.
someone who's new to lifting weights, of course, it's a great place to be because you will see a lot of gains very
Results, yeah.
fast. But otherwise, it's just super easy to lose fat. And we'll probably talk about it at some point that what are the protocols. As long as you know what are the protocols,
Yeah.
you don't really have to make a lot of sacrifices and you'll still be able to lose fat.
Correct, correct. Now, okay, let's say I'm a beginner, right? And I actually now want to start focusing on muscle. I mean, I've done some basic workout here, there, all of that, but how do I plan? Like, how do I say, where do I start? What's my basic or foundational, like the load and how many
Yeah.
repetitions? There's so much information out there. But if I can't afford a coach and stuff like that, I'd love to know more, right? So I'm sure our viewers and listeners, if there are a lot of people who just want to kickstart,
Yeah.
what would your advice be on that?
I think the first thing that people need to understand are the foundation, the variables that they can play around with. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to explain what those variables are, and
Sure.
then we'll get into the details of periodization and things like that.
Yeah.
And these are the terms that you will hear a lot when you are at a gym. So the first thing is load. I'm sure you've heard it. Load is basically how much weight you are lifting. So if
Load.
you're doing a bicep curl with a 10 kg dumbbell, the load is 10 kg in
Correct.
that case. Then is your repetitions or reps. It's basically how many times are you moving that weight
Yeah.
up and down. So again, an example of bicep curl, this is one repetition and you do it again, that's the second repetition.
Yeah.
I know these things are very simple, but I'm just explaining it for the benefit of everybody because when you get to the gym, a lot of things are anyway intimidating and overwhelming. So
Yeah.
you should at least understand what you're signing up
Absolutely.
for. Uh, then is the sets. Sets basically, or we also call it rounds
Rounds.
sometimes. It basically means a group of unbroken repetitions that you can do without having to stop and getting it somewhere close to failure. So a group of basically how many reps can you do is one set.
Yeah.
And we typically play around with the number of sets when we plan a workout.
Yeah.
Then is the rest. Rest is how many seconds do you rest between two sets. And that's another very important variable because how much do you rest will define how much can you push your muscle every single set.
Exactly.
And that defines basically what is the goal that you are training for. Now something very important, it's the RPE or RIR. RPE basically means ratings of perceived exertion.
Yeah.
And RIR means reps in reserve. So RIR is basically the reverse of RPE.
RPE.
We look at RPE on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being that you can't do even a single rep. So if you say that you are at a 10 RPE and I like point a gun to your head and say do one more rep, you
Yeah.
still won't be able to do it. That is 10 RPE, and which basically means 0 reps in reserve.
Correct.
So that's the inverse relationship. What I'll try to do is I'll draw a chart which explains what RPE means in relationship to RIR. You don't have to use both parameters. You can
Yeah.
either use an RPE or an RIR. If you are at an 8 RPE, which means that 8 on 10 kind of an effort,
Yeah.
means you could have gone another 2 or maybe 3 reps. So you are 2 or 3 reps in reserve, and that's a pretty good intensity and effort level to be
Yes.
at. So this is very important because people sometimes are not able to go to an RPE which is required for them to build muscle.
Yeah.
Now even before you get to that, you need to understand that there's something called an RPE. And then these are the variables, very simple variables that you can play around with in your programming to make sure that you are moving towards any specific adaptation. All of this comes together to create one solid workout.